Good evening. We're going to open the City of Walker Planning Commission meeting for February 15. First item on the agenda is a review of the minutes from February 1. Any comments, corrections, changes, or motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second. Motion by Tyler, supported by Joe to approve the minutes from February 1. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. 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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. At this point in the agenda, this is an opportunity for general public comment. Got two items on the agenda: the Northridge precise plat, the English Hills area, and then this industrial building from Wilson Avenue. Thank you. So if you've got something about those two, there'll be opportunity to offer comment. Otherwise, if there's anything else that people want to come forward and make a statement. No takers. We'll move into the agenda items. This first item is a public hearing, case 23-001, and I'll turn this over to Paula to introduce it.
Thank you, Chair. So what we have before us as our first case tonight is an amendment to the Northridge Drive East precise plat. This is an amendment to the zoning ordinance. The ordinance has in it a few provisions. This one is 9438 that outline where specific roads are proposed to be built, and so that they will get built according to the specifications in the location that has been approved for areas that will be developed. This one is already in the ordinance, and it is being proposed for an amendment. You have in front of you, commissioners, and there is a hard copy on the table over here if the audience would like to look. I apologize, I don't have it on the screen. A recent update, a very small change to the plan as presented in the document here. Where this is as part of the English Hills development, is why it's being brought up today. In the ordinance currently, there is a very kind of generic, I would say, curve toward the road. So this is what is in the ordinance currently, where Northridge Drive East will be placed, or needs to be constructed, as part of the English Hills development that has been approved by the Planning Commission. They are changing slightly the orientation of the roads. The curve here, I believe the engineer would say, has been softened. It's a slight change to that, and as this is part of the zoning ordinance, it needs to be formally approved and adopted. So it is before you today for a recommendation to the City Commission. It's an ordinance to the amendment, or amendment to the ordinance, and the City Commission will hear and then make final approval on this proposal. I believe that is kind of the basics that I wanted to cover for you today. The applicant is present, and I believe they might be willing to share some more details or answer any questions that the board may have.
Okay, thank you, Paula. Any questions for Paula at this point? Okay, now we'll turn it over to Scott Connors, city engineer.
Paula covered most of it, but I think, just to reiterate, I think when we started this, we had said we want to have what I'll call the touchdown points at the north end and the west end to be consistent with the precise plat that we've already approved. And we said we'll give you some flexibility between those points to put, gentle and reasonable curves in the road and things like that. So they did go around a wetland that was at the north end of this, and that's why you see the real strange curve right at the beginning there. That's to avoid a designated wetland, and that was agreed upon during the planning process. But unfortunately, after that, we discovered that the alignment on the west property line for English Hills is actually about 60 feet different than it was on the original precise plat. So that's really why we're here, is that 60 feet. And we reached out to that neighbor, the Engman family, and talked to a couple of their representatives. They took some time to review it. And then I think we sat on it for a little bit, why this development was kind of stagnant. And we're back here now because they're ready to get started. We want to make sure that it's secure. And even as late as today, we got another minor amendment to the survey. So I guess we would ask that you offer up some freedom, you know, perhaps minor adjustments at the discretion of the city engineer or something like that, because we haven't double-checked this new alignment to make sure that the survey all works out. But they have changed the curves in there to meet the bare minimum requirements that we laid out, and I think this is going to be the perfect alignment for their development.
Okay.
Where was the 60 feet off? Where was that?
They came onto the Engman property with their alignment 60 feet further south than we originally anticipated. But in actuality, the way that the Engman property is laid out, it might actually benefit them, because if they were to break off lots or try to develop that, they'll have a little bit more property on the north side now. Those lots can be 60 feet deeper, and that may be advantageous. But we didn't want to make that decision on their behalf. We wanted to make sure that they had a chance to interact.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions for Scott? Okay. An opportunity now for the applicants to offer your comments.
I think Scott hit it pretty well.
Can you
the
push-
big thing was the western.
Push the button on the mic. There you go.
The big change that we were making was due to the wetlands that were on the west side of the site. We did shift that road a little bit farther south. As he mentioned, it does kind of parallel their northern property line in that area. So I think it does fit development better with the current alignment. Other than that, we were avoiding wetlands. That was the primary reason for the alignment change on the site itself.
Jesse, you've got to give your name and address or business.
Yeah, I'm Jesse Luter. I'm with Wolverine Engineers and Surveyors. We're at 312 North Street, Mason, Michigan. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for him at this point? Okay.
I'd make a motion that we open the public hearing.
Got a motion by Tyler, supported by Steve, to open the public hearing. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Again, you're here to offer any comment or question concerning this project in the English Hills area. Please come forward and provide us your name and address and offer your comments. Right? Seeing no takers?
I'll make a
Chair,
motion.
I'm sorry.
apologies. I have an email that I received recently
Okay.
from the neighboring property owner, Dale Engman, for the meeting, to confirm that they do not have any objections with the change in the precise plat to Northridge through our property. We met with the city and agreed to the shift south on their border. Don't see any reason to object.
All right, thank you very much.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion by Tyler, supported by Steve, to close the public hearing. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Case number 23-001, amendment to Northridge Drive East Precise Plat. I make a motion to recommend approval for the proposed ordinance amendment to the Northridge Drive East Precise Plat, section 94-38 of the zoning ordinance, to adjust the right-of-way geometry and extend the null and void date from December 31, 2025 to January 1, 2030, subject to the following conditions and based on the findings of fact below. There are no conditions listed. Findings of fact, section 94-38 of the zoning ordinance as amended herein remains in substantial compliance with the intent of the original precise plat to define the roadway and allow for improved traffic flow, an enhanced street network, alternative traffic routing, and comprehensive access management in the north part of the city of Walker, and also to allow the engineering department to make minor adjustments as needed in the future meetings.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Support. And support. Motion by Tyler, supported by Steve, to recommend approval of the proposed change to the precise plat. I think an important part of that is that that contact with the the neighboring property owner, the Engmans, and that's very important as we go forward. So, hearing no questions, all those in favor of the motion to recommend to the City Commission approval of this, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you very much. Okay, the second item on the agenda is case number 23-002. Again, Planning Director Paula Prevey will introduce the project.
Thank you, Chair. This case is a site plan review. It is for the property at 3116 North Wilson Court and 2972 Wilson Drive. This is the site of West Pharmaceutical Services in the North Wilson Commerce Park. You're probably familiar, they did an expansion a year and a half ago, and they're back to do another expansion. This proposal is 2 expansions to the building itself, as well as a greatly expanded parking on an adjacent property they purchased, and proposed new routing of traffic through the site, including a new truck lane around the new parcel as well. I apologize, there are 2 small errors on this staff report. One is at the bottom there, that is the wrong address for the site, and then it is Tech Group Grand Rapids. I apologize for that to the applicant. So what we have in this case, the applicants met with staff for a site plan review committee meeting and made many adjustments to the plan that were recommended by staff of various departments, and ultimately there are just a few things to draw your attention to as we review these plans. The first is traffic and site circulation. I'm going to bring you to a different view of the site, just to give you a better idea of what is changing here, and then we'll pull up the site plan. So currently all traffic to this park comes off of 3 Mile. To get to the facility here, everyone accesses it through North Wilson Court, which is this cul-de-sac, and then all traffic comes in the same drive. That is employees, visitors, and trucks. The proposal has the applicants purchased this parcel here to this immediately to the south. They're proposing to add a truck lane that would separate from this curve here, drive traffic around. So trucks would be isolated away from employees, visitors, pedestrians on the site to improve safety. And I have the plans here. Where? This is the current conditions. The site plan. So the proposal is to add 2 expansions onto the building. The first one is here and the second one is here. They would move this parking to the east, add a new parking lot on what was kind of a grassy, undeveloped field, and then add this drive lane to the side here. There's a small addition of some parking on this side of the site as well. So that is kind of an orientation to the project. The site circulation component is generally very improved. They've added a pedestrian kind of crossing island from the new lot to what will be the new employee entrance. There is a concern that I will leave mostly to the city engineer to discuss, but this truck drive here comes out very close to 2 other drives around a curve on Wilson there. So there are some concerns about that. The other main concern or thing that was not fully addressed after the site plan review committee meeting is landscaping in the plan. There is more landscaping now than was provided before. However, it does not fully meet the ordinance requirements, particularly where it comes to landscaping around the parking lots. This is the landscape plan here. There are trees around. They are keeping some trees on the new parcel. They have added landscaping around the new frontage on Wilson. However, there is insufficient parking, insufficient landscaping in the parking lot, around the parking lot, according to the ordinance. And so that is something that staff have brought to your attention. The applicants did make a comment that based on the use of the facility, they intentionally don't put landscaping in some areas so that it doesn't enter the clean facility for the type of manufacturing they do. So that might be something to discuss with the applicant when they have an opportunity to answer questions from the board. Those were the two outstanding things that staff wanted to draw your attention to. Overall, we are in support of the project, but there are a few details to iron out still. I'm happy to answer any questions or call back to any of the images I showed. I tend to go through those pretty fast, but I'm happy to bring them back up if necessary.
Okay, thank you, Paula. Any questions for Paula at this point? Okay. Turn it over to City Engineer Scott Connors.
Thanks, Terry. We have a couple items here, mostly just site plan review type items, changing details and things. But right at the top, we put the one that I think has been the hardest to work through between engineering and public works and some of the other staff, and that's that the driveway location is essentially overlapping the driveway for the property to the east, which is a thing that we try not to do. We've got a few of these around the city, and one thing we always pledge is to learn from our mistakes. Home Depot is a really good one on Alpine, where we've got two driveways that are immediately adjacent, and it confuses people, and they don't know which driveway to get in. They don't know if it's a boulevard driveway. There's a little bit more traffic there than here, but in this location, we do get, when some of these businesses in North Wilson let out, we do get a lot of traffic all at once, and we do get a lot of complaints about speed, people not being able to pull out of some of these driveways at times. Which seems crazy, but it's true for 10 minutes or something like that. So there is some confusion out here. We want to make sure that we take that into consideration as we look at this. We're going to leave the determination, obviously, to you folks. We just want to make sure you know that from a staff standpoint, we'd sure like them to look at other options for that driveway, and I suspect that they're going to talk about things that they've explored because we drew up a few ourselves. But ultimately, we can't mandate that. We can only let them bring in the plan that they provide, and then you get to rule on that plan. So in addition to that, there's just, like I said, some details. We need to update the bituminous valley gutter to be equivalent to our Walker number 7. We want to make sure that the truck turning template works for that northeasternmost truck dock, so way up on the upper right of that picture. There's a lot of parked cars right there. It seems very tight, so the template didn't show that. Typically, we want to see the hardest places to put the trucks in with those templates and not the easiest places. And so that would be one more that we would need. There's also details for Walker 16 and Walker 12, which are the commercial driveway detail and the parking lot turnout. On the south side there, on that parcel to the south, we want to make sure with that new parking that they have the ability to back out of the last spot and that they have 10 feet to back up safely so they don't have to go back and forth and have a 3 or 5 point turn. And then the last item is something that we haven't figured out yet and might be good for you folks to ask. They do have the truck access road in an easement. At least it appears to be in an easement, a cross access easement. But the parking lot to the north is not in an easement. And we found that a little bit confusing because if they're going to spin off this lot to somebody else, and they're going to put an easement over the driveway, why wouldn't they put it over the parking as well if they're going to use it for the parcel to the north? So I think that's a good question for you to ask. And I'll end it there.
Okay, thanks, Scott. Any questions? I have one. You expressed concern about the relative location of those drives. What would be the minimum separation that would bring a level of comfort from engineering and DPW staff?
There really isn't one there between those two driveways because there's already two that are fairly close together for a curve like that. We would propose that they work with the neighbor to the east because their driveway almost looks like a road. There's no sidewalk across it. It's kind of shaped like it's a private road, and that would be a very good fit. There wouldn't be any decision points that need to be made on a curve that can potentially be busy and a little, have some faster cars. So that would be ideal. You know, also they could take, you know, several steps back and redesign the new parking lot and perhaps just try to utilize one of the other driveways to be able to get those trucks out. But again, we can't dictate that to them. They have to come in and make the pitch for why this is their preferred location.
Now, one thing noted, going out to the site, that there's a freestanding sign near the roadway, and it wasn't clear whether that represented the property to the, immediately to the east of this, or whether it formally identified whoever was occupying the building here. Any sense?
I'm not sure, Paula?
Which sign are you talking about? There is a sign to the kind of southeast of the drive that goes to the neighbor. It's kind of a multi-tenant sign. There's a number of different businesses listed, and then there is a sign in front of the building that was purchased by the applicant.
The sign in front of the building?
Yes, that one is proposed to be taken down in the plans.
Okay, all right. Any other questions? Have the applicant representative come forward, please. This is not a public hearing, but we will go through the presentation by the applicant, and if there are any questions from people in the audience, we'll take those, even though it's not a formal public hearing. Yep.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. My name is Justin Longstrath with Moore & Brugink Engineers.
I'm Brian Linus. I'm with West Pharma.
So I guess maybe I'll just give a real brief overview. I know that a lot of our discussion tonight is probably going to be on this driveway, so we can talk about some of the just site generalities. But as part of this project, West Pharmaceutical is looking to expand their facility and their production line. The building on the east side of their existing facility, the building addition, I should say, that is the building that will primarily house their expansion for their production and their manufacturing. The building addition, what I would call on more of the southerly side, is more an office addition, expansion, renovation. As part of this project, in addition to the building additions, one of the key goals for us was just on-site safety. And Paula, if you could, maybe either the existing site survey or that aerial picture, if you could pull that up, that might help in the discussion. So the existing site, you can see from this perspective, all of the truck docks are on that east-facing wall. And like Paula had alluded to, all of the traffic for this site currently enters and exits the site from the single driveway that they have at the end of the cul-de-sac. And it really, and Brian can maybe speak to this a little bit more, but from a safety perspective, they've had some real issues with employees, just pedestrian foot traffic, but then also vehicular traffic, having cars and the trucks come into conflict. And you can see, and if you've been out to the site, you know that they're very busy, the parking lot's very full, and they do have a large amount of their employees and even visitors at times that have to park in that eastern portion of the existing parking lot, which is on the far side from where they enter the building of the truck lane. And so you have a lot of pedestrians that have to cross that drive, and it's just really a bad situation. And so the good thing about this project and the opportunity that they have now is with the purchase of this sale to the south, we're really able to improve that internal site circulation. And then maybe, Paul, if you want to pull up the site plan. As part of this project, we are able to fully separate the truck traffic from the pedestrian traffic and employee traffic. So the intent would be for the employees to enter the existing driveway off of that Wilson Drive, the existing driveway that's there now, and park in the new parking lot that would be located behind the existing building. We have provided dedicated sidewalks and a crosswalk across the existing driveway there to safely get those pedestrians and employees from one side to the other. But I think the key part of that is in that movement, that pedestrian movement, at no point would they be asked to cross driveways that would have truck traffic. That would all enter on the new driveway that we're talking about on Wilson, between the two existing driveways, and we're able to completely separate those now. And then just the last point I would make about site access is any visitors or employees that would require barrier-free parking, they would enter the site on the existing driveway at the end of the cul-de-sac. So we're really able to disperse the traffic now and create that, that site safety. And Brian, I don't know if you want to maybe talk about a few instances that you've had.
Yeah, we actually unfortunately had a incident on site where we did have an employee, hit in the parking lot, so this is a priority for us. And, you know, as Justin said, we have the opportunity now with the continued growth to really be able to put a good long-term solution in place if we're able to separate the truck traffic from the car traffic from the pedestrian traffic, so.
So just to maybe get into a few of the other options that we've looked at, West has pursued a shared access agreement with the neighbor. I think that would be our preferred method for having the trucks access the site. Unfortunately, they have not responded, and we just have not had the answer back, but certainly can continue that discussion, but to this point, we just have not had any response, and so we are being forced now to kind of look elsewhere for our options. The other option that we did look at was utilizing the existing driveway for trucks as opposed to building a new. The problem with that is, in order to fully separate the trucks from the employees, we would still need the trucks to enter the existing west facility on that east side. And so as a truck driver entering into that existing driveway, you have to almost make a 180-degree turn, come back across the front of the existing building, and then back up. And it really is just not a great movement for trucks that are going to be accessing this site every single day. So the alignment that we have was really just a culmination of a lot of different options that we've looked at. Realizing that it's not ideal, we did have Rowe Engineering perform a traffic study. I don't know if that made it into your packets or not. They did look at this configuration. They did go out there and look at existing traffic patterns during kind of those peak times. And they came back and said, while not maybe ideal, it doesn't, in their opinion, cause a significant traffic issue. And I do have Haley here from Rowe if there's any questions that the planning commissioners have about that report specifically. But in general, with this project, we are trying to just create a better situation in general. And in our opinion, this is the best that we're able to do with what we have. And then the only other thing I would point out, and maybe Paul, if you could bring up that existing aerial picture again. Just looking at the driveway configuration at the end of the cul-de-sac, there are 4 driveways there, all within very, very close proximity to each other. And so by allowing some of these employees or all of these employees to access the site, enter and exit from a different location, we're really going to improve the driveway, the existing driveway and the existing cul-de-sac, just because we're not going to have the amount of employees all exiting or entering at that one location like there is today. So I think that's it. Like I said, there are representatives from West. If there are any questions on their facility, their expansion, any of those things, otherwise gladly answer any questions that the commission has on the engineering side of things.
Mr. Chair, how many trucks a day?
We're gonna be running roughly 8 to 12 trucks a day.
So only 8 to 12 trucks would be coming out on that.
Yeah, we're in ramp right now, so that's what we see today. But yeah, it's gonna be probably 8 to 10 trucks a day, in and out.
Justin, did you look at off the Wilson there, it's just south of the existing building, the little building, tying into that parking lot, removing those parking spaces and possibly just having the one driveway, but split trucks and signs that says truck that way and that way. If you're only dealing with 8 to 10 trucks a day, I mean, to put in a whole new curb cut and that close, that's the only issues I have with this whole thing is the driveway. That's a pretty tough thing to approve.
Yeah, so we did look at that, and part of the issue, again, with that movement is as you enter that existing and then ask the trucks to effectively turn back almost 180 degrees to come east and then back north, the driveway width would have to be really, really wide to have those back tires on the truck make that move. Otherwise, we'd be rolling, I mean, it'd end up being a 50-foot wide driveway by the time the back tires on the trailer get through. So that was one of the reasons that.
That's a good point.
We tossed that one aside. And again, we have been trying to contact the neighbors because we acknowledge that that is by far the best solution, but without them even responding to our request, it's very difficult to move forward with that.
Yeah, that, if you could work it out with the neighbor, that would be ideal, but that's just my opinion.
Mr. Chairman, could I offer up a comment that might help you guys out?
Certainly.
This is a little bit of an oddity for us because we didn't actually get to participate in the site plan review meeting with these folks. We just had some conflicts with budget and things like that, and it didn't work out. So we didn't get that period of collaboration that we usually like to get to work through something like this. And hearing that they would prefer that other option, it might be nice to give us a chance to go back and the city could help work with, the context that we have to get in touch with them and see if that could be worked out. Because it sounds like if they want to do it, we want them to do it. It'd be nice to give it another shot. And I'm not sure how you would work that into a motion exactly, but I would throw that out as an option.
No, appreciate that, Scott. Good suggestion. Commissioners, any other comments?
Just on another comment, what do you do with the pharmaceutical industry there?
So we're manufacturing all disposable medical device products. So anything from cardiac surgery products to eye care devices to auto injectors.
So the comment about landscaping, you're worried about getting pathogens from the plants into your, I can understand that, okay.
Yeah, all of our manufacturing is inside clean rooms, so bugs are a big thing. So, landscaping, even wood chips and things like that, they're just homes for bugs, and we try to keep them away from the facility. Again, the other thing with parking islands and things like that, they're difficult to plow around, and it creates hazards for employees, slippery parking lots, things like that, harder to clear. So where we can avoid it, we would prefer just to have an open parking lot that we can scrape clean, again, focusing on site safety.
In terms of the project, your goals and aims are right there. I think there's complete agreement in terms of improving safety on the site and also cutting down on congestion at the end of the cul-de-sac. It's just how do you get from A to B here and to accomplish that? We're not experts in terms of coming up with those options, and we respect the professionals that you've hired to represent you and city staff. And I think Scott's suggestion, may have some merit in terms of reaching a solution, I think, that works for everybody. What kind of a timetable are you on with this project?
A tight timetable. So the next expansion is already started internally. There's some internal work that's needs to happen for us to prep, and it's all about phasing because it's modification to an existing facility. So we really need to be able to move through this so we can have the new parking lot in place this summer, early this summer, ideally with the truck route separated as well. Because even as we start moving into steel erection, wall panels going up and stuff like that, even that main drive is not going to be accessible during that portion of the project.
Steve?
Yeah, I think we can all agree that ideally they would just be the connection to the existing drive, and my hope is that certainly that can be worked out, but I think the discussion that we have to have up here is what is plan B if they can't reach that agreement, that if for some reason that's unattainable, and how do we, I guess, considering a motion, how do we build that into what that looks like? If they can't reach that agreement, is this drive where it's proposed okay? Is it Is it that we need to, I guess, delegate some authority to the engineering team to figure it out, which doesn't feel necessarily fair? I mean, how do we cross that bridge is my question.
I hate to be the bad guy, but I would look at tabling this to flesh it out and be sure not to have staff. I don't know how to work it in a motion, is what I'm saying.
Well, Tyler, to that end, I guess I don't have an issue proposing an approval if they're able to reach that agreement. The question is, do we want to send them off with that, knowing that if they can't reach it, they just have to come back? I mean, it's kind of the same thing that we're talking about, right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
I agree. These guys have done a good job. They're expanding. They're a clean industry. We want them around. Their help's going to pay 1% of their taxes to us, and we appreciate that. But we've got a guy that sits here, and he's been here longer than I have, and he's pretty good on driveways and drainage and stuff, and he knows this town, and I kind of like what he says.
If I may, at this point, like I say, it's not a public hearing, but just in the off chance that the neighboring property owner might be in the audience here. Just on the off chance that the neighboring property might be in the audience and want to offer some comments, we'd welcome that perspective. Or if there's anyone else in the audience that has a question or concern about this.
Making the job tough on us.
I think some good conversation as far as how to approach this.
Well, I mean, do you make a motion that says we approve all this with Plan A being the shared driveway and Plan B being as written in the plan? Because I don't see much other options besides those two. Unless they want to tear that little building down and put in one driveway and then split it. But, I don't know.
I would be concerned if we tabled it or whatever, would put the applicant in a disadvantage in negotiating with the people to the east. I think we either have to look at it and either get approval as have they approved it with there is a carrot that they will go out and try to get this easement, but I think we have to do it on the way it's drawn up.
Yeah, I agree with you.
So what, just to clarify, we're talking about, I'm sorry, Mark, I lost you a little bit. Are you saying approve what's presented or approve the idea of plugging into the existing drive?
Well, I think there's a carrot out there for the applicant that they want to do it because it's the best method. And
Right.
it's probably the most economical and everything like that. For us to go and say that it's not going to happen without that, I think was in that quite a negotiating disadvantage. Is that a fair statement or not?
Scott, what are your thoughts?
You know, this is a fantastic business. Their principles about what they're trying to do are exactly what we want to see around the city, and we're stuck with a solution that just doesn't fit our desires, and we're very proud of everything that gets developed in the city. We know it's reviewed a lot more critically than most other cities, and that's why it's safer, things have longevity, we do a good job with that stuff, and that's why I'm not a politician, because I'm trying to weasel out of it, and it's not working. I think that you need to decide if you can approve the plan as presented, but I think it's absolutely fair for you to say, if you do that there's a period of time that you need to invest in trying to secure that other access. And then I would, yes, and I would say the staff, and I think some of our political folks even, Steve, you might be able to chime in on that. I think they'd be willing to help because there's a political will to see this get done.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead. No, Dan, please.
Well, time is of the essence here, so we need to make, I don't know if we can have that authority to kind of push that meeting along sooner than later here, so we can get them going if this needs to get going as soon as possible.
Yeah, I mean, to that end, I think I think we're happy to do whatever we can to make it happen. I think we want to see the ideal solution, but to my end, I think that I am comfortable approving what's presented with the caveat that we work towards the ideal solution. And I think I'll do my best to work that into a motion. But to that end, I don't have an issue approving what's presented as we'll call it a Plan B, just in that, I mean, we're talking about 12 trucks a day on what I believe to be not an incredibly traffic-heavy road, right? We have a lot of trucks moving through here, but it's not like we're approving this on a main thoroughfare, right? So to that end, that's where I'm at. I don't know, I guess pulsing the room here, Mr. Chair.
Well, a couple of things. Don't want to overlook all the detail. There was a question raised concerning there's identification of an easement over this drive, probably for future, give you a little more flexibility. As far as the parking goes, it looks like that parking is very important to this building expansion. So any action we take, we probably want to clarify that that's, in that respect, it kind of ties those two properties together. So any action we take, we'd want to cover that. In terms, we're looking at the number of trips that they have going in and out of the site during the day. That's one of the factors. The other is the timing on those activities. If there's a way to have some assurances that those are going to be off-peak, it sounds like there's some defined peak times that are observed at this site right now, that if it would help matters out if those truck movements where there might be some confusion are off-peak, that would be advantageous as well. I think safety is job one here, and job two, I think, is to encourage a successful business in the community to be able to expand. And so I think that might be go into consideration as we ponder action tonight.
I agree, and Scott and Paula kind of flesh that out in their conditions of approval. So that's what I would read into the motion as the conditions of approval as listed.
Sorry, there was a question about peak traffic hours and stuff like that. One note, the majority of our employees are working 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. So our shift changes are really kind of on that off peak. So, employee traffic isn't happening at 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. So I don't know if that helps.
Well, with regard to the truck traffic, I don't know what influence you have on I don't know if they're vendors or the like that work on your behalf as far as timing those deliveries strategically off-peak as well.
Yeah, I think it's something that we can work to. I can't give you any guarantees at this point because it's all production driven based on how, we have secured a third-party warehouse on just off of 4 Mile by the Amazon building over there as well. So that's where the bulk of our traffic is going between the facility here and to our third-party warehouse.
Okay.
So I should probably add too, we've studied the traffic out here in detail over the years because of we've had so much trouble with that traffic light because this whole development has one way in and one way out. And it's very, very flashy, and we've worked with a lot of the businesses to try to break that up so it's not all 8 to 5 or 7 to 4. So they do have different start and stop times out there, and it is pretty predictable. So it wouldn't be that difficult to kind of work around those flashy periods where, you get 300 cars in 10 minutes and then it's a sleepy road for the next 45 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Al, do we have a motion to put on the table, onto the floor?
I certainly can.
All right,
I have a question for Scott before we go on. Would you be comfortable with us approving something that says it's to your discretion whether or not that drive meets, if we push that on you?
Trying to figure out if I'm a good guy or a bad guy. I'm not sure. I think I'd be comfortable with the responsibility of trying to help them work through this. I'll put it that way. Again, that's me getting out of a political question.
I wrote a really nicely articulated sentence here. Are we ready? Okay, for case 23-002, based on the application material provided, I will make a motion to recommend approval of the site plan for a 33,470 square foot building addition, expansion of parking lots and other site improvements for West Pharmaceutical Services at 3116 North Wilson Court Northwest and 2972 Wilson Drive Northwest, subject to the following conditions and based on the findings of fact noted below. The applicant agrees to all conditions of approval as noted in the city engineer's report dated 2/8/2023. The applicant shall revise the landscape plan to include a minimum of one deciduous tree per parking lot island. Is that correct? Okay. The applicant shall provide 3 sealed sets of civil engineered plans incorporating the recommended conditions to the Community Development Department prior to the issuance of a building permit. And the applicant will work with city staff to pursue solutions for the eastern truck driveway with reasonable diligence and to the satisfaction of the city engineer.
Oh, that was really good.
Does that feel about right? Yeah. Findings of fact per section 94-283, dimensional requirements, the dimensional arrangement of the buildings and structures conforms to the required yards, setback, height, and other applicable bulk and placement regulations of the MP zoning district. Building arrangement, the proposed buildings and structures have a compatible relationship to the site terrain, landscaping, open space, and the other buildings and structures existing and proposed. The bulk, location, and height of the proposed building and structures, as well as the general character of the development, will minimize any adverse effect to other development in the surrounding area and will not place demands on public services or facilities in excess of capacity. Drainage of surface water. Proper site drainage will be provided so that removal of surface waters will not adversely affect regulated natural areas, neighboring properties, or the public storm drainage system. Vehicular access and parking, the provisions for vehicular loading and unloading and parking and for vehicular and pedestrian circulation on the site and onto adjacent public streets and ways will not create hazards to safety and will not place demands on public services or facilities more than capacity. Drive streets and other elements have been designed to promote safe and efficient traffic operations within the site and shall provide safe and efficient vehicular access to and from the site considering adjacent streets and curb cuts. Off-street parking and loading areas have been provided as required by this chapter in a manner that will minimize noise, glare, odor, and other effects on uses on the site or on adjacent properties. Pedestrian access has been provided between major activity areas and employment centers. Exterior lighting will not create undue hazards to motorists traveling on adjacent public streets nor damage the value or diminish the usability of adjacent properties. Lighting will be adequate for the safety of occupants or users of the site. Landscaping, plant material will be used to enhance the appearance of the site, to screen unsightly or harsh elements, and to provide visual relief from large monotonous features such as parking lots. Landscape buffers will be preserved or provided to ensure that proposed uses will be adequately buffered from one another and from surrounding public and private property in compliance with the requirements of section 94-344. Emergency access. All buildings and structures will be arranged to permit sufficient access to emergency vehicles.
Got a motion by Steve,
Support.
supported by Tyler. Any other conversation? I'm kind of curious, as looking at the aerial on this property and looking a little bit to the east, it would appear that drive along the west side of the adjacent property, maybe more of a secondary access for them, with the main activity perhaps as it branches off to the east rather than along the west side of the building. I don't know if the fire department had a play in the existence of that when that was constructed. Yeah, just an observation in there. If there's no other comments, call the question. All those in favor of the proposed conditional approval indicate by saying aye. 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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Got Scott Connors, and I think there'll be other city staff that probably will assist on that, and you may have somebody from the city commission that might be helping out as well.
Thank you, appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Paula, Scott, anything note or kind of a preview of next meeting?
Of course, I have a few updates for you. First is that we received a public notice from Plainfield Charter Township that they are going to start the process of updating their master plan. As part of that, you have to notify your neighboring municipalities, and so if anybody wants to learn more, I can give you the contact information provided on this letter, that some of our neighbors are doing some planning work. Second, we did not receive any applications, and there is no pressing staff business for the March 1st meeting, so that meeting is canceled. Our next meeting will be March 15th. We have 2 items of business, I believe. The deadline was today. I don't think I missed anything. We have a rezoning application for a property on Alpine across from the Meyer from C3 to C1. And we have, the staff will be bringing back the proposed amendments to the signs chapter of the zoning ordinance that has been being worked on since you heard it last summer, and so that will be brought back.
Okay.
Do you know which property that is on Alpine?
I wanna keep mixing them up. I'm working on 2 of them right now. I think it's 2518. It's the Bell Tire, or it's the tire facility. Goodyear Tires, I think.
Oh, the old Goodyear tire?
Yes.
Okay. It's blight right now, so I'm not happy about that.
Scott, you had something to add?
Yeah, one quick thing. The next time we meet, I'd like to have 10 or 15 minutes to go over our project list for the next couple of years. Been doing a tad bit of a little traveling roadshow with that lately with staff. And you guys are great ambassadors to the city. I know what it's like. I'm a planning commissioner where I live, and you get asked all the time, what's going on with that road? What's going on with that building? So I'd like you to have some knowledge about some of the infrastructure projects that are going on, because there's about a dozen of them in the next 3 years. And it's going to be hard around here. So hopefully you can help, pitch the reasons and the answers why things are being done the way they are.
Sounds good.
I saw they started the gas station at the corner of Wilson and Leonard on the south side.
Yeah.
That was sitting out there for a long time.
Got the shell, almost.
Is it shell?
Well, I mean, the building.
The structure.
Haven't seen anybody put up a shell in a while.
About that particular gas station, I actually have an admin site plan review on my desk. They made a very small adjustment to the building as approved. It's shrunk by about 300 square feet. And so that's something the ordinance says staff can approve. I'm in the process of writing you a letter for that, so you will get that between now and our next meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
So you found funding for Fruit Ridge?
25 million.
That was a really, really good day in the office. That Friday was,
Oh, yeah, it spread like fire.
yeah, so.
It did.
We're in a really good spot around the region right now when you look at all the good things that are going on privately and publicly. And a lot of folks are talking about, our good fortune, but a lot of that good fortune comes with a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
And it's been a whole group of people that have been contributing, so at some point we have to take a second and be proud of it.
you know, around the city, Bristol Bridge is being taken care of. Now, Fruit Ridge is being taken care of. The only thing left is the 3 Mile Bridge, railroad bridge. Then Scott can retire.
Timing might be right.
That was not an invitation.
Okay, Dan?
I would like to make the motion to adjourn.
All right.
So done.